The beauty of being articulate. A 20-minute inspirational story about the power of speaking clearly. Have you ever listened to someone speak and found yourself completely captivated? Not because they were shouting, not because they used complicated words, not because they were trying to impress anyone, but because every word seemed to have a purpose. Their voice was calm, their thoughts were organized, their words were easy to understand, and somehow, when they spoke, you wanted to listen. That is the beauty of being articulate. Being articulate is not simply about having a beautiful voice. It is not about speaking perfect English. It is not about knowing thousands of impressive words, and it certainly does not mean talking constantly. To be articulate is to have something meaningful inside you, and to have the ability to bring that meaning outside of you clearly. It is the ability to turn thoughts into words, confusion into understanding, emotion into expression, and silence into meaning. In a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the person who can communicate clearly has a remarkable advantage, because people may forget exactly what you said, but they rarely forget how clearly you made them understand something. Today, let us explore the beauty of being articulate through the stories of remarkable people who understood the power of words. People like Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, Maya Angelou, Winston Churchill, and Barack Obama. Different countries, different backgrounds, different personalities, different voices. But they shared something powerful. They understood that words are not merely sounds. Words can move people. Words can comfort. Words can challenge. Words can inspire. And sometimes, words can change history. What does it really mean to be articulate? Imagine two people looking at the same sunset. One says, "It's nice." The other pauses, looks at the sky, and says, "The sky looks as if the day is slowly letting go of the light." Both people saw the same sunset, but the second person gave the listener a clearer picture of what they felt. That is articulation. It is not necessarily about saying more. It is about saying what you mean in a way that another person can understand and feel. An articulate person knows how to choose words. They know when to pause. They know when to slow down. They know when a simple sentence is more powerful than a complicated one. And most importantly, they understand that communication is not about showing people how intelligent you are. It is about helping people understand your message. Think about that. You can know everything in the world, but if you cannot communicate what you know, your knowledge may remain trapped inside your mind. A brilliant idea that nobody understands is still an idea waiting to be discovered. A powerful emotion that cannot be expressed can become frustration. A meaningful story told without clarity can lose its meaning. This is why articulation matters. Your voice is a bridge. On one side is your mind. On the other side is another human being. Your words build the bridge. And the clearer your words are, the easier it becomes for someone to cross it. One of the most recognizable examples of powerful public speaking is Martin Luther King Jr. His famous speech, delivered during the March on Washington in 1963, became one of the defining moments of the American Civil Rights Movement. But what made his speaking so powerful? It wasn't simply volume. It wasn't simply vocabulary. It was vision. King had the ability to take an enormous and complicated social struggle and express it through images and ideas that ordinary people could understand. He spoke about dreams, justice, freedom, brotherhood, hope. These were concepts that people could feel. His delivery also mattered. He knew when to pause, when to emphasize, when to repeat an idea, when to allow emotion to enter his voice. This is one of the great lessons of articulation. Clear speaking is not only about pronunciation, it is also about intention. When you know what you want your audience to understand, your voice becomes more focused. Imagine saying, "I want people to understand that everyone deserves equality." Now imagine saying it with genuine conviction. Suddenly, the sentence has weight. The words become more than words. They become a message. And that is something you can practice. Before speaking, ask yourself, what is the one thing I want people to remember? If you know the answer, your speaking becomes clearer. Nelson Mandela, the strength of calm speech. Now consider Nelson Mandela. Mandela spent 27 years in prison before becoming South Africa's first democratically elected president. His life gave him enormous reasons to speak with anger, Yet one of the qualities frequently associated with Mandela's public presence was his composure. He understood something that many people forget. A powerful speaker does not need to sound angry to sound strong. Sometimes calmness is strength. When someone speaks too quickly, their ideas can collide. When someone speaks without pauses, important words can disappear. But when a speaker slows down, something changes. The listener has time to absorb the message. The speaker appears more deliberate. The words gain space. This is why pauses are so important in articulation. A pause is not a mistake. Silence is not failure. A pause can be punctuation for the voice. Think about a sentence like, "We can change." Now say it quickly. "We can change." It sounds ordinary, but imagine, "We can change." The pause creates anticipation. It allows the words to land. Good speakers don't simply speak. They give their words somewhere to land. And that is a skill anyone can learn. Maya Angelou was a poet, writer, performer, and civil rights activist whose voice became one of the most recognizable literary voices of her generation. Her speaking had a quality that went beyond pronunciation. It carried experience. It carried rhythm. It carried emotion. And this teaches us another important lesson. Articulation is not about removing emotion from your voice. It is about controlling emotion well enough that your message remains clear. Some people think that speaking clearly means sounding robotic. It doesn't. A truly articulate person can sound excited, sad, serious, warm, passionate, or humorous. The goal is not to eliminate emotion. The goal is to make emotion serve the message. Imagine telling someone, "I'm so happy you're here." You can say the exact same words with a flat voice, or you can allow your voice to rise naturally. You can smile, you can pause, you can make the listener feel that you mean it. The words haven't changed, but the communication has. That is vocal expression. Your mouth creates the words, but your voice gives them life. Winston Churchill became famous for his speeches during some of Britain's darkest moments in World War II. His speaking demonstrates another important principle. Powerful communication requires preparation. People sometimes imagine great speakers simply stand up, open their mouths, and beautiful words magically appear. Usually it doesn't work that way. Great speaking is often built long before the microphone is turned on. Ideas are organized, words are chosen, sentences are refined, delivery is practiced, and sometimes entire speeches are rewritten repeatedly. This is especially important for anyone learning articulation. If you want to speak clearly, don't only practice your mouth, practice your mind. Before speaking about a subject, organize your thoughts. Ask, what am I trying to say? Why does it matter? What example can explain it? What should my listener remember? Once your thoughts are organized, your speech becomes easier to organize. A confused mind often produces confused speech. A prepared mind produces clearer speech. So if you struggle to speak clearly, don't immediately blame your pronunciation. Sometimes the problem begins before the first word. Sometimes you simply haven't decided what you want to say. Barack Obama became widely recognized for his public speaking style, particularly his controlled pacing, deliberate pauses, and ability to explain political ideas in accessible language. Whether people agreed with his politics or not, his communication skills became an important part of his public identity. And there is something fascinating about controlled speech. It can make a speaker sound confident, not because the person speaks faster, but because they don't seem afraid of silence. This is something many beginners struggle with. They are afraid of pauses. So when they finish a sentence, they immediately say, actually, like, basically. These filler words are normal. Almost everyone uses them sometimes. But excessive filler words can make a message less clear. The solution isn't to become afraid of them. The solution is to become comfortable with silence. Instead of saying, basically what I'm trying to say is, try what I'm trying to say is, then pause. Continue. That pause may feel uncomfortable to you, but to your listener, it can sound confident. Remember, silence is better than unnecessary words. Here is a secret about articulate people. They don't always use complicated vocabulary. In fact, some of the clearest communicators use very simple words. Why? Because the purpose of communication is understanding. Imagine someone explaining a simple idea using 10 complicated words. Then imagine someone explaining the same idea using 5 ordinary words. Who communicated better? The second person. Intelligence is not measured by how many complicated words you can say. Sometimes intelligence is knowing which complicated words you don't need. A good speaker asks, how can I make this easier to understand? Not, how can I make myself sound impressive? That difference is enormous. If you want to become articulate, don't chase difficult vocabulary first. Build a strong foundation. Speak clearly, pronounce your words, complete your sentences, use appropriate pauses, control your breathing, organize your thoughts. Then expand your vocabulary naturally, because a large vocabulary without clarity can become noise, but simple words delivered with precision can become powerful. Now imagine someone walks into a room. They don't have the loudest voice. They aren't the most extroverted person. They don't interrupt. They don't try to dominate the conversation. But when they speak, people listen. Why? Because their words are clear, their thoughts are organized, their pronunciation is understandable, their tone matches their message, and they listen when others speak. This last part is extremely important. Articulation is not only about speaking, it is also about listening. A person who listens carefully learns how people communicate. They notice tone, rhythm, word choice, emotion, pauses. They learn when someone wants advice and when someone simply wants to be heard. The most effective communicators understand that communication is a two-way street. You speak, someone listens, then they speak, and you listen. That is communication. Think about your everyday life: a job interview, a classroom presentation, a business meeting, a phone call, a conversation with your family, a YouTube video, a speech, a simple introduction to someone you've never met. In every situation, your ability to communicate affects how people understand you. This doesn't mean that speaking perfectly guarantees success. It doesn't. Talent matters. Knowledge matters. Character matters. Hard work matters. But communication can help other people recognize those qualities. You might have an excellent idea, but if you cannot explain it, people may never understand its value. You might have confidence, but if your message is unclear, that confidence may not translate into influence. You might know the answer, but if you rush through it, people may miss it. Articulation gives your ideas a chance. It gives your personality a voice. It allows people to see what is already inside you. There is another important lesson. You don't have to sound like Martin Luther King Jr. You don't have to sound like Nelson Mandela. You don't have to sound like Maya Angelou. You don't have to sound like Barack Obama. And you certainly don't have to imitate another person's accent. Learn from great speakers, but develop your own voice. Your accent is not automatically a flaw. Your natural voice is not something you need to erase. The goal of articulation is not to make everyone sound the same. The goal is to make every person understandable. A Filipino speaker can speak beautifully with a Filipino accent. An Indian speaker can speak beautifully with an Indian accent. A Japanese speaker can speak beautifully with a Japanese accent. A person from anywhere in the world can develop excellent articulation. Clarity is more important than imitation. Your goal is not, how can I sound like them? Your goal is, how can I make my own voice clearer? Perhaps you're listening to this and thinking, I don't speak clearly. Maybe you speak too quickly. Maybe you swallow your words. Maybe certain sounds are difficult. Maybe you become nervous when speaking. Maybe your mind moves faster than your mouth. Maybe you know exactly what you want to say, but when you start talking, everything becomes tangled. If that's you, don't be discouraged. Articulation is a skill, and skills can be trained. Start slowly. Read aloud for 5 minutes every day. Practice difficult sounds. Read a paragraph and record yourself. Listen to the recording. Don't judge yourself. Study yourself. Did you rush? Did you drop the endings of words? Were your sentences too long? Did you breathe at the wrong places? Did you use too many filler words? Did your voice become too quiet? Then practice again. This is how improvement happens. Not through embarrassment, through repetition, not through perfection, through awareness. The first recording may make you uncomfortable. The 10th may sound better. The 100th may surprise you. And one day you may hear your own voice and realize, I sound different, clearer, calmer, stronger, more confident. That is the moment you realize your voice has been growing with you. But perhaps the deepest beauty of articulation isn't confidence. It isn't intelligence. It isn't persuasion. It is connection. Think about the last time someone said exactly what you needed to hear. Maybe they said, I understand you. Maybe you can do this. Maybe I'm proud of you. Maybe it's going to be okay. The words were simple, but they mattered. Why? A clear voice can teach. A clear voice can comfort. A clear voice can defend someone. A clear voice can tell a story. A clear voice can give courage to someone who has none left. And sometimes, a clear voice can speak for people who have been unable to speak for themselves. That is why the ability to communicate is so valuable. Your voice may be more powerful than you realize. Maybe you are learning articulation because you want to become a better speaker. Maybe you're preparing for a job. Maybe you want to become a teacher. Maybe you want to create YouTube videos. Maybe you want to speak confidently in English. Maybe you're simply tired of mumbling. Whatever your reason, remember this: your voice deserves training. Just as an athlete trains the body, a speaker can train the voice. Your tongue can become more precise. Your breathing can become more controlled. Your pronunciation can become clearer. Your vocabulary can grow. Your confidence can improve. And your thoughts can become more organized. But don't measure your progress against someone else's voice. Measure it against your own voice yesterday. If yesterday you rushed and today you slowed down, that's progress. If yesterday you were afraid to speak and today you tried, that's progress. If yesterday nobody understood you and today one person understood you better, that's progress. Small improvements eventually become remarkable changes. Let's return to the question: what makes someone articulate? Is it a perfect accent? No. Is it an enormous vocabulary? No. Is it speaking quickly? Definitely not. Is it speaking loudly? No. Being articulate is the ability to communicate thoughts and feelings with clarity, purpose, and control. It means choosing words carefully. It means pronouncing them clearly. It means knowing when to speak and when to pause. It means understanding your audience. It means listening. It means practicing. And perhaps most importantly, it means having something worth saying. Because the most beautiful voice in the world is still empty if it has nothing meaningful to communicate. So don't practice speaking simply to sound impressive. Practice speaking so people can understand you. Practice because your ideas deserve to be heard. Practice because your stories deserve to be told. Practice because your future conversations may depend on the confidence you build today. There is something extraordinary about the human voice. It begins with nothing more than breath. Air leaves the body, passes through the vocal cords, shapes itself through the mouth, and becomes language. A thought inside your mind becomes a sound. A sound becomes a word. A word becomes a sentence, and a sentence can reach another human being. Think about how incredible that is. You carry an instrument with you everywhere. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to carry it in a case. You don't have to plug it into a wall. It is already inside you, your voice. And like any instrument, it can be trained. So speak slowly, clearly, purposefully. Don't be afraid of pauses. Don't be ashamed of your accent. Don't worry about sounding perfect. Instead, work on sounding understandable. Work on sounding sincere. Work on making your thoughts easier for others to receive. And remember the great communicators who showed the world what words can do. Martin Luther King Jr. showed how a vision could move millions. Nelson Mandela demonstrated the strength of dignity and measured communication. Maya Angelou showed how a voice could carry poetry, experience, and emotion. Winston Churchill demonstrated the power of prepared words during a time of crisis. And Barack Obama demonstrated how pacing, clarity, and deliberate delivery could make complex ideas accessible to enormous audiences. But their voices belong to their stories. Your voice belongs to yours. Maybe today, your voice is still uncertain. Maybe you stumble. Maybe you mispronounce words. Maybe you speak too quickly. That's okay. Every articulate speaker was once a beginner. Every confident speaker once had an imperfect sentence. Every powerful voice began with someone deciding to speak. So keep practicing. Read aloud. Breathe. Pause. Pronounce. Listen. Try again. And one day someone may listen to you and think, there is something about the way this person speaks. Not because you sound perfect, but because you sound clear, because you sound sincere, because your words have purpose, and because when you speak, people understand. That is the beauty of being articulate. Your voice doesn't have to be the loudest voice in the room. It doesn't have to be the most sophisticated. It doesn't have to be perfect. It simply needs to carry your meaning clearly from your mind to another human heart. So take a breath. Open your mouth. Speak slowly. Speak clearly, and let your voice become the bridge between what you think and what the world can finally hear. Thank you for listening, and remember, your voice matters, your words matter, and with practice, your voice can become clearer than you ever imagined.